Yo, what up? It's your boy Owen JJ Stone, aka O Doctor. I'm on autopilot because my guest today is a supermodel and he's got things to do. I'm just happy to have him here with me. I think it's like episode 7. I don't know what day it is. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's giving me any money for this show, so if you wanted to, you could at Patreon, but I don't even push that because I'm not that kind of person. But if you have change, feel free to give it to me, and I'll sprinkle it around the internet. Say hello to the people, Tom.
Hello, people. Thanks for having me on, man.
Man, Tom Merritt is like one of the coolest people in the world. I say that in the third person like you're not here for people that are listening. But how you been?
You said I was a supermodel, which makes me feel like I'm married to a presidential candidate.
You very well might be. You very well might be.
Eileen for president.
I would, you know what? I would take her 80 million times over.
I think I might miss that. You may have just given me an idea.
Oh, man.
I'm going to
like
cast my vote.
You know, if we could, boy, if we could just slide her in there, the world would be a much better place.
I'm telling you, man.
No doubt. I actually, speaking of her, tell her I said hello. I miss her face too.
I will definitely pass that along.
So, Tom, I have a question to ask you. It's more, I'm not. It's not for me. Somebody else asked me to ask you. How do you do all the stuff you do, Tom? You seem so busy.
I'm pretty busy. Some of it's a magic trick. Like one of the keys to being busy in podcasting is live to tape. Like a lot of people who sit and edit things look at all the shows I do and go, there's no way. I'm like, oh yeah, if I edited them, yeah, there would be no way. But you just record it, publish it.
And that's what me and you just started doing. We talked for like literally 30 seconds and we're like, let's just go and hit record. And sometimes I'll post stuff in afterwards, like if we speak towards a video or a show or something, I'll put in clips, something like that. And I have a buddy help me out, Matt Ryan, but you are right about that. It's hardest most when you're doing all these things, but like I'm watching Mr. Robot, right? And I was thinking about you. I'm like, I feel like Tom Merritt's on this regimen of I get up, I read the news, I do a podcast, I watch 2 shows, I do a podcast, I go to the movie theater, right?
It keeps Christian Slater from showing up and talking to me.
Because
man, I know what you mean. There is a little bit of an organizational regimen I have, but it's just stuff that I've decided works for me. I don't know if it works for anybody else.
Yeah, and I think, like, again, it just popped in my mind about you when I'm watching the show because I know all the things you do. Like, I generally know your schedule, even though, like, I check in periodically because, there's only so much time that somebody could take in any given day.
Tell me about it. You have to live with it.
You do have to live with it. It's like I'm married to you. It's not like I get the full-time effect. So why am I going to sit there and be jealous watching you on the internet all the time? So I got to take it in spurts so I don't cry myself to sleep that I'm timeless.
Oh, please.
In my everyday atmosphere, But when I was sitting there watching the show, I was like, man, you obviously watch Mr. Robot.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about it on Cord Killers Spoiler in Time, too.
Okay. You did talk about it, or you're going to?
Yeah. We've been talking about it. We've been keeping up with it.
I have not. Today, for some reason, again, it just popped in my head. So I didn't finish last season. I started today from episode 6.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes.
You did that just this morning, huh?
Yeah. So I'm like,
wow.
I started watching it last year, and I was current. And then, you know how you get lost in the sea of the world. Yeah. I forgot.
Even good shows. I love Orphan Black. I'm that way with Orphan Black right now. I'm like partway through this current season, and I'm just like, I gotta find the time.
I haven't watched Orphan Black yet. I watched 2 episodes, and then again, that's another one where I forgot about till you just brought it up, where you just again get out of rhythm.
Yeah.
I just binged on it now, which is also fun. I get to watch, everything
That's
all in one system, and I avoided spoilers, even though that show doesn't have really spoilers. Per se.
I mean, there's a couple of twists that you don't want to spoil people on, really, but yeah, mostly it's the experience of it.
And even that, like, I saw that coming, like, because you just feel like, man, this is like the part, now I can tell you about it, the part when I realized what was really going on is when, I don't know what the guy's name is, the black guy that was the hacker that grows the weed and all the marijuana and stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either.
When he tried to, like, back out of the deal, and he went to him and he's like, bro, I told you when we started, I'm crazy. And he pulls the gun on him. And the way he's looking at him and the way he's talking to him, like, because you're really crazy. Yeah. You're really, like, the fear in his face, like, it wasn't even about the gun so much, the situation. He started feeling fearful once he said, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I mean, the our mutual friend Brian Brushwood was starting to talk Fight Club way early on that first season. So I had it in my mind, like something like that might have been going on.
Yeah. I thought it too, but that's when I really realized, like, okay, this is like legit, because they placate it to you by talking to the audience, by breaking the fourth wall.
Well, and I like in that first episode this season where he's like, I don't even know if I trust you anymore. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, he really does mean me.
Right.
Like,
we're not trustworthy. We sat there and watched everything go by. But
I started feeling bad. I was like, what'd I do? Oh wait, no, it's just a TV show.
We all betrayed him. We're all out here to get him. It's kind of interesting in that whole, right now with the climate that we have going on in the world. I was like, man, we could use like a reboot of some economic structure. It would be horrible, but it would be like the best thing in the world.
Right. For everybody who doesn't have $30 million tied up in banks, like, all right, I could probably find a way forward, because I think, not to get too deep into the problems of the world, but the frustrations are not we're starving. The frustrations are not our lives are awful. The frustrations are I'm struggling and I don't seem to be making any progress. Like I'm, and that's why people who are like, they're doing okay are really angry, because they're like, I see all these other folks on television and everywhere doing great. And I don't feel like I'm making any movement toward that.
And that's like, we can get as deep as we want to. This is DocTales. We telling stories. Nobody cares about us. We can talk politics. We can talk whatever. This is a safe zone for crazy talk. But you're exactly right. When I put out a lot of the stuff where it looks like racial divide, and then I always bring it back to it's an economic problem. Like, definitely, people in urban communities get targeted by police because they don't know the mayors and the congressmen. They don't donate to the corporations or the city councils and stuff like that, because when you do those things, people don't bother you. Or like the one senator that just made a speech that said he's been stopped 7 times this year. Well, guess what? The police chief calls him at night and apologizes after reprimanding that officer. Regular people don't get that. And when it comes to economics, like, when you talk to black people and you talk about the recession and you see people like rich billionaires, millionaires shooting themselves and jumping out of buildings because they lost all their money in the stock market, regular people are like, what recession? There's a recession? I still got the same amount of little no money that I had, because their money's not tied up in fictional stocks in a market that just pays them for no reason.
In 2007, 2008, when the recession hit, I remember like, oh, wow, people in service jobs are much nicer suddenly, because in San Francisco, which is where I was living at the time, it wasn't like, I got to deal with you until I get to my startup. It was like, oh wait, I need to keep this job. Like, that's a horrible reason to make people nicer. But suddenly, like, everybody was just a little more relaxed and maybe it's because there wasn't as many douchebags around either.
That has a lot to do with it. Again, I feel like everything we have right now is economic problem, and the way the system is rigged towards money begets money. The more you have, the more you make, and so on and so forth. It's the same way, like if you take an example of a show, like somebody goes to a Patreon, and like I don't promote my Patreon, right? Because I don't really care. I can't do it. I'm a horrible person like that. It's hard for me to promote myself, especially when I have other things bringing me income. Like if this was my sole thing, I would be hardcore at it because that would be my job. But since it's not, I don't. So if somebody goes to my Patreon, they say, oh, wow, he's only getting $30. Well, who's really watching his show, or who cares? As opposed to if you see somebody getting $1,000, you think, well, shoot, this show must have value. There's 30, 40 people contribute. Like, you know what I mean? Just seeing that money creates a value towards that system. And some people don't have that kind of value. They look, like you said, movie stars and actors. The worst thing I hate in the world is when people complain about an athlete making $1 million, however much they make. I'm like, the athlete's not the problem. All these athletes get paid all this money. I'm like, who could afford to write the checks for all these athletes, the coaches, the training staff? Like, I'm like, those are the guys that are the problem. Like, that one dude is your problem, not Shaq getting $25 million. Who could pay Shaq that money is the problem.
You never hear anybody complain like, man, these owners are making too much money. Like, the closest you get to that is complaining about ticket prices or beer prices.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But people still go. They still pay, or that money wouldn't be coming in.
And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, that's the easiest way I can explain to somebody the magic of the wealthy tricking the poor. Because the lower totem pole guy says, Shaq doesn't deserve all that money. And then the owner says, yeah, Shaq, you're lucky you're getting all this money. And you're like, well, wait, you could pay 30 Shaqs on the team and still be rich. Yeah. And then they come into your town or city and say, I don't want to pay for your stadium. Which, to me, I'm thinking, if taxpayers pay for it, every citizen should get one free ticket to a game. Maybe they can't all go that year, but sometime in your lifetime, you get to go to a game for free.
Part of your tax refund, right?
Yeah, you just get a ticket. Yeah, like if it's a household, they say, okay, here's 4 tickets. You can all go to a game in 2020, and that's your thing that you get back. But we don't even get that. Like, there's no compensation whatsoever.
Oh, man, my hometown of St. Louis, like, they've got the most recent tale to tell on that with the Rams, right? Like, the Rams kept forcing St. Louis to pay for the stadium, and then they forced them to even give over the concession money from the stadium, which was really what was supposed to have the city make money off of it. And then eventually they're just like, well, we want to get out of here anyway. And they come to Los Angeles, and I think what they're doing here is actually really cool because they're going into Inglewood near the redesigned Forum. They're going to build this whole real estate development, right? And they're paying for it all themselves. I'm like, yeah, that's the way it should be. You go in and you create something that's better, and then you pay for your stadium and you benefit from it. But they wouldn't do that in St. Louis, and I don't know why. And it's like LA, I mean, sure, Inglewood definitely needs that. But LA on the whole is doing a lot better than St. Louis, and they totally screwed over St. Louis.
And that's why they do it, because of gentrification. And in LA, there's no real estate left to buy. You're stuck in the outskirts of everywhere. But if the stadium comes and says, hey, we're going to pay for it. Why? Because the land is actually valuable there. The area has value. So when they go and build their little duplexes and suplexes, they're going to sell out at max dollar and make buku bucks. So yeah, they don't want to give that up to the city or the state. They want to keep that money because there's actually value in it. When you go to St. Louis and it's the suburbs and there's only 1 million plus people in that city and the economy's only so big, hey, well, you foot the bill because we can't sell this space to anybody else. So we're not going to make any money off it. But LA, they know they're going to make that money.
And especially because this town's been crying for a football team forever. So, yeah.
But they haven't sustained a football team. I'm wondering how well they're going to do holding on to a football team. LA has so much stuff to do. Like, people just started going to Clippers games because they finally started winning, but people will go to Lakers games and maybe some baseball, and that's about it. That's all they have time for. So
and that's why that whole real estate development part of it is so interesting, right? Because the Rams don't have to be good. He's going to make his money.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have people living there. And then people living there are going to be going to the games because they live there. And they're going to want to justify that high price they paid for that duplex.
Yeah.
So they're going to get their friends to come out and visit them, have a barbecue, go to the game. What I wonder is the plan is to get a second team, whether it's the Chargers or the Raiders or somebody else, to come in and share that. That team is going to get screwed because that team isn't getting any of that real estate money.
No, they're not at all. So I hope I don't know if you're how much you're into sports or whatever, but the Raiders are really trying to go to Vegas.
Yeah, I've read about that.
And Vegas is really trying to get them. And I think now with all this online sports betting and fantasy football and the gambling that goes on involved with that, what's the difference between somebody being in Vegas versus LA where you could drive out there anyway? They should just let a team go there, and then they'd be stuck with only San Diego.
Yeah, and San Diego probably is going to let the Chargers go. I mean, there's a chance they might stay, but
have you ever gone out to a game in San Diego?
I haven't, no.
So while it's still there, you might as well go out. It's a pretty neat stadium. Nobody goes to the games, so it's kind of good and kind of bad. One, you get some average seats, you can sneak down somewhere closer. But the people that are there are like super rabid fans. The problem is, again, when I'm out there, I'm like, why aren't we on the beach looking at girls or something? Like, I could have watched this at home on TV.
Sure.
It's so beautiful there. Like, every game must be like amazing. My friend, he moved from Philly out there, and he's like, the games are so cheap, but he's like, we never go because we go to the beach and we watch the games on the beach at a bar. We drink, you know what I mean? Like, you're sitting on the beach watching the game, and everybody's living like that. So it's kind of hard to get them to go there. So if they move to LA, that would really bolster that up of people not going. There'd be 2 teams. People probably get some kind of package deal, like you said, to get them in to the games. If you wanted to go to a game every week, you could.
Yeah.
So, very interesting.
I want to go see a Rams-Cardinals game. It's January 1st, so that's kind of fun. And it's the two teams that left St. Louis and broke, in the Cardinals case, my heart as a kid, and in the Rams case, all of my relatives' hearts who are still living there.
You should make a sign that's snazzy and somehow says, neither one of you are ever welcome in St. Louis
St. Louis says hello.
Right? St. Louis says hello.
St. Louis sends its regards.
And the thing
like
about
the Lannisters.
And I feel bad for St. Louis because people used to travel out to those games because there wasn't really much out in that area. So, you know, like, it really sucks. Like, I have friends that live out there and they're really upset. Like,
oh yeah, no, all my relatives are pretty upset, except for the ones who gave up on them earlier. Yeah, there are ones that got so upset they gave up on them before they left, and they're like, good riddance.
Yeah, well, because you can see the writing on the wall, and the games that people play. Again, at least they pay for their new stadium. They didn't try to trick somebody into.
What always gets me about not to talk always about St. Louis, but the Blues, the St. Louis Blues hockey team, which I loved growing up, but like lots of my friends and family are like, hockey, it's not a real sport. And yet the Blues survive in St. Louis when a football team and an NBA team can't.
Hockey is weird to me. I have hockey jerseys. People always say I love hockey. I've never been to a hockey game, and I need to go to one.
Man, they're so fun.
I've been to like a kids game, like younger kids playing, like teenagers, and I guess it's fun. It feels like soccer to me. That's how I kind of equate the rules of it.
Yeah, it's generally knock a thing around and try to get it into a goal.
Yeah. But I just want to go to a game because everybody goes to hockey games. They love hockey, and it's
what's your nearest team?
Flyers.
Oh yeah, that's a good franchise.
Yeah. The Flyers are good. They can never get over the hump. Blah 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 blah. They're making moves. Blah 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 blah. So, it's just, people who love hockey really love hockey, and they're almost like closet fans. Like I see people all the time walking around in baseball jerseys or football jerseys. I know a lot of people that love hockey and they don't wear. I guess because they're so big and like bulky. Yeah, like the sleeves are like, you know what I mean? Like the one I have, it makes me look like a small child. Like it's huge on me. So you never really see people out like, hockey, but you'll see people in Eagles gear or like I said, baseball gear. So
and I haven't been to an actual Blues game in forever, probably since I lived in St. Louis. But I've been to a Blackhawks Red Wings game in Chicago. I went to I think it was a Blackhawks San Jose Sharks game when I lived in the Bay Area. I still had fun watching. Of course, I was cheering against teams in both cases.
Yeah, don't they come out your way?
Yeah, they do. They play the Kings. They play the Ducks. It's just like you say, like, there's a matter of time. I got the beach. I say the beach. I don't even have time to go to the beach.
You don't have time to go to the beach.
I live 10 minutes from the beach, and the only time I go is when people are in town.
Well, we're talking about towns and sports. From being in the quote-unquote tech space and spending so much time in San Francisco, I remember like 5 or 6 years ago, I would try to get anybody and everybody who lived in the Oakland area, Bay Area, to go see a basketball game. Hey, let's go see the Warriors. Nobody gave a shit about the Warriors. Nobody cared.
It's a great timeout campaign.
Yeah.
They're like trying to be like, look, it doesn't matter if we lose. It's fun.
Yeah, it's just something to do. And now, I mean, other than Jeff Kanata, who could break out pictures apparently of when he was 5 years old wearing a T-shirt and his dad still got the shirt, all these other people drive me crazy lately with their Warriors. I was like, you don't even care about basketball, and now all of a sudden you're aficionado. And I'm a Sixers fan, and we've been tanking for the last 5 years, and we're horrible. I'm like, I suffered through my love of basketball. I used to be a season ticket holder, and I can't even do it to myself anymore because they weren't doing anything. And you're gonna come tell me about the Warriors and we're the best basketball and the Sixers suck. I'm like, I will choke you to death because nobody up there cared about sports until now they're champions. And it
it is annoying sometimes. Like my wife, I don't consider myself a big Warriors fan. I have a soft spot for them because I live there. But my wife, she went to University of San Francisco. She lived there for 15, 20 years. She became a Warriors fan, even though she grew up a Lakers fan. And so she was taking me to games when they sucked and being like, yeah, we should support the Warriors. I love the Warriors. And then when they started getting good, she got really excited and she got annoyed too. But at the same time, you don't want people to not care when the team is doing good because that's even worse. Like, look, you've ignored this team when they're bad, and now you're going to ignore them when they're good.
As a sports person. I just hate it. I hate it all. I hate Wardell Curry. I hate everything.
We were A's season ticket holders for several years, and that was the epitome of the A's would go to the playoffs every year, and nobody cared. Nobody would come to the games. You could get great like American League Championship Series seats because nobody cared about the A's. And then the Giants get to the playoffs and suddenly everybody's crazy. I find that way more annoying. Like, the A's have been here the whole time, doing well, and you still won't support them.
And then people take it for granted. You know, same thing like how you're looking at the Patriots run for the last 15 years. You're like, they're probably going to the Super Bowl. You kind of like just relinquish it to them, and when they don't go, you get excited and you don't get to appreciate their greatness until 15, 20 years down the road. Again, I know I'm wrong. I just can't stand. I'm like, you nerd. Now I get all into calling people nerds and calling them names and stuff. I'm like, you don't even
at the N-word.
You don't even know what a rebound is. I'm on Twitter and I was getting so upset with people. It is ridiculous. But at least she's like somebody who went to some games. Like my whole thing is even if you went to a game, I'd be more respectful to you than like people I know directly. I used to ask, hey, let's go to a game while I'm out here. I know it's cheap. You know what I mean? And they're like, nobody really cares about that. I was like, okay. And now all of a sudden they're the deepest, strongest fans and they cry and die or whatever, you know.
We went to a Dodgers game recently and it reminded me, like, one of the problems with going to see sports is it's such a time commitment. Like, games last a couple hours,
3 to 4 hours there.
You have to get in there for the parking, and you want to get there in time, and then you got so much time coming out, the traffic, and everybody trying to leave at the same time. Like, it's a commitment.
It's a whole half day thing.
Yeah,
it literally is. Like, if you go at night, your night's over. Yeah, from the time you walk out the door till we're going to bed afterwards, unless you're like some party animal you want to go out after. But it really does kill a good chunk of the day. So
I mean, the games generally don't last that much longer than a movie does these days, but for some reason a movie doesn't feel like it eats up as much of your day.
There's no traffic at the movie.
Yeah.
When you walk out of a theater, if there's max maybe 150 people, 200 people to just bump in with, and then they disperse in the parking lot. At a game, there's 5,000 people, 10,000 people, 50,000 people, depending on, you know what I mean, what's going on. So
do y'all have the assigned seats at the movie theaters?
Yeah, we do now at a couple of them.
And that helps too.
Yeah.
Because even at games with your assigned seats, you want to get there early to beat the crowd. Whereas at a movie theater, you're like, oh, well, I can just walk in during the previews. I know my seat's there.
Yep. I'm super lucky where I'm at, even though I'm moving soon, hopefully in a month or two. Like, I could walk to both of my movie theaters, like in walking distance of my house. Like,
that's really
it's
nice.
super nice. So when I think like, oh, the movie starts at 7, like you said, I usually get my ticket ahead of time, and then I go right in there and just go sit down, and
that's perfect.
It's great. I can't complain about that. When you were a kid, you play any sports?
Yeah, I played baseball. I played basketball. I ran a little track. I think that's pretty much it.
Would you run in track?
Distance, like half-mile.
Were you any good?
No, that's awful. My skill was like I could finish the 2 mile. That's why I was on the distance team, because like, oh, he can actually run 2 miles when we have the 2 mile event. You're in.
What position did you play in baseball?
Baseball, I did a little bit of pitching, mostly second base and outfield.
Okay.
I mean, everybody played outfield. So.
Everybody played outfield. See, you pitching? Pitching's pretty good. Like,
yeah,
how old was this
freshman
pitching?
year in high school, and then I didn't have the velocity anymore, but I had control.
Okay, well, that's cool. Yeah, I got Leah playing. Well, she's playing everything, but softball. She's on first base, and they're in a coach pitch league, so they don't even have the option to pitch. And the thing I never get about softball, and I should look this up in history, is why the girls pitch
underhand
with that underhand like pitch.
Yeah, it's some ancient Victorian thing is my guess, like, and now it's just tradition.
It's the weirdest. So it's the weirdest thing in the world, and I'm like, why can't they just? And I gotta ask somebody. I'm sitting there like, cause I'm overweight. I'm like, is it a boob thing? Like, is it
I
like your
don't
arm?
know.
Like,
I don't know if there's a real reason.
Yeah, and I didn't want to ask somebody because I felt like it would be like one of those. I doubt
anybody
things.
Really knows. Like, that's something you got to look up on the internet.
Yeah, I gotta Google that. That's going to be some homework. I'll message you when I find out that information. But
I forgot about coach's pitch because we didn't have that when I was growing up. We had t-ball for like kindergarten or first grade, And then after that, kids pitched.
Yeah.
And it was messy.
I think my one friend, he has this, I didn't have Leah play in like the T-ball league thing, whatever, when you first start, when you're like 4 or 5. Yeah. And my buddy's like, his son's 5 and he's Mr. Baseball. He played all through high school, played in college. Like my son's going to play baseball. Right. So son's 4 years old. He gets him in T-ball and he calls me like after 4 games. He's like, he's not playing again until he gets to like coach pitcher. He could pitch because I can't do it. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, just come to a game. I go to a game and the ball is sitting on the tee and every kid might have to take 30 swings to hit that ball. And you're just suffering through it. And then when they do hit the ball just plops there. You can't get a kid to run and get the ball. They won't even roll. Like, it's just like, why are we even out here? It literally is for an hour of what are we doing? And you just
it's not for entertainment. It's entirely for learning.
Oh yeah. And it's, you see those parents that are going to be crazy because they try not to yell at their like 5-year-old about not going to get the ball. And I'm just like, yeah.
I remember playing T-ball and realizing all I have to do is hit a grounder to third and I'll be safe.
Yeah.
Like this, because in my head, I'd watched baseball on TV. I'm like, oh, I have to hit it into the outfield. Otherwise, they'll throw you out. I'm like, wait, the other kids my age can't throw anyone out.
Yeah.
This is great.
So my daughter's on first because she's one of the only girls that's not afraid to catch the ball.
Uh-huh.
So that's the biggest thing, because half the time when the girls throw the ball to her, like what you just said, the ball goes over them, the ball goes to the right, the ball goes to the left. Like, none of them have accuracy at it. And when they do get it, like, it's like everybody's screaming hot because, like, oh my God, they threw it and you caught it. It was amazing. But it's just so funny because I'm like, these girls get, like, and I don't say they're girls, these kids get so upset, like, when they strike out. Like, Leah was batting 1,000 the first 4 games. Like, she get 4 hits every game, always get on base. Then she started not getting hits, and she was upset. I'm like, you've been batting 1,000 for 4 games. Like, nobody hits every ball. That's not how this. Yeah. Like, that's not how the game works. Like, and when you get on base, just hustle. Like, you got to run, because then she didn't like getting out. She got out for the first time. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, it's just the way it is. The kids are funny like that.
It's almost worse to go 1,000 for a few games like that, because then it's like, well, I'm never getting out. I'm invulnerable, right? And then, and you're just like, no, the way it works is you get safe 1 out of every 3 times if you're really good.
Yeah, like and that's being really good. Like I try to explain it to her. It's the same thing. Like now she does everything. She plays every sport, but like her first year at soccer, they lost every game by like 5 or 6 goals. And she's not the win at all costs. She doesn't have that fire. But after a while, she's like, man, we're never going to win a game. I'm like, nope, because you guys don't know how to play. You're not listening. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. My mindset was, I want you to lose every game so that you know what losing's like, and next year you'll try harder. So they mess around and win the last game, and she was all hyped up. I'm like, I wish you didn't even win this game. She's like, what? I'm like, I don't even like you having confidence in this game right now. You guys don't deserve it. And the next year she played again, and they won like 50 or 60% of their games. Yeah, they did better. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about, because you learned what it was. You know what I mean? I was like, that's a great story if you become an Olympian.
Right. Well, and I get what you're saying. You wanted to learn that lesson, but winning the last game almost might be the perfect scenario.
Yeah,
right? Like,
it was.
Okay, you can do it.
Yeah.
So maybe next year you'll be able to do it more.
Yeah.
It's so weird with kids sports though, because there's no way to balance those teams. You don't know who's going to be good and who's going to be bad. I mean, you could tell the people who are stronger or whatever, but it's until you start playing the games, it's really hard to tell. And kids that are good one year suck the next year because they grew and they got awkward or whatever. It's crazy.
Exactly. Like, she's playing basketball right now, and it's a mixed summer league, so it's boys and girls. And last night, they were like, oh, who we're going to pick teams or whatever. And the boys were like, boys against girls. And everybody's like, yeah. And I'm just like, these girls are way better than these boys. Like, there's 3 girls, like my daughter, that are taller than all the boys out there. Yeah. But she's tall she's taller than 12-year-old girls. I'm like, no, don't do it. Next thing you know, it's 6-0 and the game's over. All the boys are upset because they lost to the girls. And I'm like, you guys asked for it. Like, you shouldn't have did it. And so she plays soccer mixed league like that. And I'll tell you one of I'm a crazy parent stories. So, she's playing it. she's playing on a mixed team against all boys because, like you said, like they had leftover kids and they didn't know what to do with them, so they just paired them up to make this team and said, well, next year she'll be on an all girls team, whatever. So she's playing this team, and this boy is pushing kids, elbowing kids, tripping kids. The ref says something one time. Now, I understand it's usually a high school kid ref. They're younger for these little kids. They don't have like a pro ref. And so he kind of doesn't want to say anything. And parents are just like, yo, he needs to stop, whatever. So the coach goes and talks to him. The ball gets thrown on out of bounds, and they're about to throw the ball in. And this kid elbows Leah in the chest. And the ref's like, hey, calm down, whatever. So he goes, throw the ball in again. He elbows her again. And I'm like, Leah, if he touches you again, lay him out. And the ref looks at me and everybody's like, oh. And I'm like, no. Leah, if he touches you again, lay him out. And whoever parent of this kid is, you need to talk to your kid because my daughter's about to knock his teeth out. And she's like, Dad, you want me to hit him? I'm like, lay him out. And he just backed up from the thing and didn't touch nobody the rest of the game. And everybody just sitting there quiet the whole rest of the game, like another 15 minutes. Everybody was just quiet. And I'm sitting there like, I hate being that guy. Like, I'm always yelling, trying to yell positive things. But I'm like, not that she's a girl even. You're not supposed to be elbowing people in the chest. It's soccer. You're supposed to use your feet. And the fact that you're not saying anything to him because you don't want to reprimand a child is silly. So if he hits you again, punch him in his face. Like I
like that your daughter knows what she's doing. It's like, you want me to do it, Dad?
Yeah.
Not like, Dad, quiet.
No.
Like, I'm going to back up the threat. Because honestly, that stopped something worse from happening, frankly.
Yeah. And again, when I say elbow her, like, he was elbowing her high, like, up in her neck. And she's like she's been doing karate and jiu-jitsu since she was 4. So she is told and programmed not to bully people, which is the worst thing in sports because all the coaches know she's like that. And they're like, get aggressive, get karate aggressive, hit the ball hard. And she's like, well, I'm not supposed to be aggressive unless somebody does something to me. So it's like, I can't be, you know what I mean? In basketball, don't let her take the ball from you. Like, until a girl pushes her or something, she doesn't get angry because she's taught not to be aggressive.
Which is a good life skill, let's be honest.
It is, but it's horrible for sports. Like, I'm sitting there like, I want somebody to push her every once in a while because then she gets mad and plays hard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, once a girl, like, pushes her a little bit, in basketball, she's up in her face, like, playing all kinds of crazy defense. But, yeah, she definitely knows to back up threats. I mean, we talk about scenarios like that all the time. We're watching Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah. We're about 5 episodes into that. It's good.
Okay, yeah. So I watched 3 episodes, and then I just tried to decide whether I could have her watch it or not.
How old is she again?
She's 9.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about this 9-year-old. Have you seen Keanu?
No, I haven't.
It's her favorite movie, first of all.
Okay.
You should watch it.
Yeah, she can watch Stranger Things. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah. We went and saw Deadpool. Like, she loves Deadpool.
Okay, yeah, totally.
So we have like a good system of when we watch movies like that, like in Deadpool when the sex scene comes up. If I don't want her to see something, I put my hand on her knee and I squeeze it. If I don't want her to hear something, I rub her knee. So she'll go like this and have her eyes closed, or she'll just have her eyes closed and she can listen to it. So like if it's somebody like gratuitously being murdered, I don't care if she really hears like, but sometimes she doesn't want to see like somebody's spine being pulled out of their body. Or if it's a sex thing, I just have her close her ears and her eyes, and she doesn't. We can get through those. It's only like 4 minutes, 3 minutes of a movie. The whole rest of the movie has nothing to do with that stuff. So we get to see a lot of adult content without the adult content, because at the same time, it's just like reading a comic book where there's blood and guts and whatever. It's just on the thing. And I tried to ease her into scary things. So we watched the first episode of that last night, and she was like, I don't want to watch this, because the first 10 minutes, it's on and popping.
Yeah.
The first 10 minutes of the first episode, she was like, I don't want to watch this. I'm like, look, babe, if we get past this first 10 minutes, we're going to be good. And then we'll watch a Batman cartoon afterwards. She's like, okay. So we watched it. She really liked it because there's a lot of kids in it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're around that age. So she hopefully, she asked me if we could watch another one. I said, we can watch another next day. So I'm going to watch it ahead of her.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because you're right. It's not sex and violence in that. It's mind scary.
Yes. It's a lot of suspense. The soundtrack, the audio is awesome.
Yep.
Like, it really, it puts you in the mood for everything that they're doing. Like the little, I don't even know how I want to call it, like the sci-fi music, the that piano synth music. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. The synth music, like that just sets me up for like, ooh, scary stuff.
Yeah, suspense. And the monster is disgusting looking.
Yeah,
even though you don't get to look at it a lot, like it's gross.
So I'm only on episode 3, so I didn't really get to see it.
Yeah, you don't get to see it. Well, I guess I saw the 5, you get a pretty decent look.
And
I
saw the thing in the elevator with like the black and the
like whatever, it's just that groupy, organic looking stuff.
Yeah, the discharge of whatever went on in there. So yeah, I'm having her watch that, and that seems
those
really
kid
cool.
actors, man, they're impressive. They're good.
When I see things like that, it makes me angry when I see 24-year-olds playing high schoolers or 12-year-olds. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you could find quality actors apparently because all these kids are great. Like
they're nuanced and shit. Like they're good.
Yeah, like even the kid with the no teeth, the dinosaur teeth, whatever his little, like I just like all of it. I like the way it feels, and for her, like, you know, she's really like, she wants to do movie reviews. She likes when we see movies early and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I try to like let her watch all kinds of things just so she can experience it. We haven't really gotten into horror yet, but like if you watch Keanu, you know, it's Key and Peele. Mm-hmm. So if you've ever watched any of their comedy skits, you know, it's kind of like that, like where the straight edge white guy, black guy, you know, she's like, Dad, I like how he went from like being like a nice dad to like a thug because he's trying so hard to be thug. So she could sit, he's pretending. He's like, that guy is the best actor in the world, Dad. That guy can act because he pulls it off. And I'm just cracking up like, so that's your favorite actor now? She's like, I think he's hilarious. And I'm like,
yeah, well, that makes me want to put another vote in for Orphan Black because Tatiana Maslany, you forget that she's playing all the clones.
Yeah.
She's so good at it. Like, you're like, oh, I guess, you know, maybe they didn't have this clone because they couldn't get the actor. And then you realize, well, no, because I'm looking at the actor right now.
Isn't that, is that on season 3?
4.
Season 4? Okay.
4 or 5.
All right. Now, I should definitely watch that then because I get in things where.
Oh, yeah, you can browse through, you can binge through it a bunch.
Yeah, I get in stuff where I don't like watch anything and then I watch everything. Like I said, like today I got up to Mr. Robot, and I just was like, oh, shoot.
Power through.
Yeah, and once I blew through last season, I thought it was only on episode 1. I was like, oh, we got 3 episodes in. I'm excited. So, it's pretty good. What else?
Are you watching Preacher?
I am watching Preacher, and I'm annoyed with Preacher. I used to read the comic books, so that's kind of messing with me, and I wish that I didn't have that experience.
Yeah, I never read the book, and I did read Walking Dead before, and that definitely messed with me with that. So I'm kind of glad I didn't read Preacher.
Yes,
because I'm enjoying it.
And Walking Dead wasn't as bad as this feels with Preacher.
Interesting.
Because Walking Dead, obviously it has more detail, but it still followed along a general pace of what's going on.
Well, that first few episodes was perfect, right?
Yes.
They kind of lured you in.
Exactly. So then when things start to change a little bit, they eased you into the whole thing. It was black and white. It felt right. You're like, oh, okay, well, they've got to make stuff different for TV until you realize, like, oh, wow, they're doing some really tremendous things with this TV show. They could have done anything they want. But Preacher is just like, it's a road show that's stuck in an apartment.
Yeah. Okay, no, because I've heard that they don't stay in the town for very long in the book.
No. In the book, it's like we're going on crazy adventures, and it's a road trip, and it's wild. And this is like, how long are we going to stay here on the same loop-de-loop? Like, how many times are you going to kill the angel dudes? Like, can't we just, like, I don't like what's going on. And I think I'm not caught up either. I got like 3 episodes more to watch, or maybe 2. I only watched up to episode 4 or 5. So, I should just binge that too.
Yeah, because I'm enjoying the town. I'm like, oh, this is a story about a preacher in a church in a town, right? Because I don't know any different.
Yeah,
I can see where that would get tiresome if you're like, yeah, but I know what happens when they leave the town.
Yeah, and again, like, I get it's pacing and it's television, and I understand you need this show to be on TV for 6 to 8 seasons. I get it. And the fact that I get it is what makes me even more angry, because I'm like, you talk to them, tell them what you want to do, let's get out. Like, we can get a hold of your powers on the road, but just be good, be bad, kill yourself, shut up, love your mother, and let's roll. But
let's get out.
Right? That is not what's going on.
But style wise, I love it. How do you feel about that? It's like plot irrelevant. How do you feel about the feel of it?
Right now, regardless of, I don't care if they made an adult Charlie Brown show. A&E right now, whoever's producing all this stuff or greenlighting these ideas and projects, they don't play around. Like, that is not a problem. Everything they do right now feels like Sopranos age HBO, where it's like every show they put out, you just respect it regardless, and then when you see it, you back it up with extra respect. So the way the show feels, the way it's shot, the characters, everything's good. Everything's good.
Yeah.
But it's just
wanted to get going.
Yeah, I just wanted to get going. And again, that's my fault because I know better. If I didn't know better, like you said, like even Walking Dead followed the beginning right, so you kind of like, it did lure you in and it tricks you. But
yeah,
this
but that messed with me more because I'm like, oh, it's going to be just like the book. And then when it started deviating, like you say, I'm like, oh, well, they got to change some things for TV. And then that second season, I'm like, this is not the way it felt. And it was a little bit of what you're talking about. Like, how long are we going to be on this farm? They're in the farm for like 2 issues in the series. Like, come on, let's get to the prison. Let's go. That's where the good stuff happens.
Yeah. And I guess that's the way it's supposed to be. So I feel the way it's supposed to feel. But again, I appreciate everything that they're doing right now as far as content.
AMC's killing it.
They're doing a crazy good job. Even with their little talking deads afterwards and stuff like that, with their little inside and
see, that's just when I get jealous that I'm not Chris Hardwick. That guy's amazing.
Oh yeah, like talk about living the dream. Like
right?
He was at Comic-Con. This fool hosted he hosted like 10 different show panels.
Yeah,
like he's like the you of.
Well, no, he is. He's the Ryan Seacrest of nerds.
Yes, he is. He is one of the luckiest dudes right now. I want to know what his little storage room looks like with all the paraphernalia and signs and things that he's getting.
He's lucky, but
off.
He's also good. Like he's good at what he does.
Yeah, he's in his element and he loves what he's doing and it matters to him and he cares. And so many things in TV and even in everything, even technology or anything you do, there's a lot of people that have a job that aren't in it, that don't care.
Do they show those first look preview trailers in the movie theaters you go to?
Yeah.
Those little pre-produced things. No disrespect to the woman who hosts them. I'm sure she's lovely and she does a fine job, but you can tell she doesn't want to be doing that. That's not her dream job.
No, not at all. So even case in point, if I do Twitter, if I do something like with you and I talk about tech, I love technology and I love tech to death, but I don't live in the bubble. So the real world fully affects my mindset when I listen to everybody bombard me with press release notes on how awesome something is. I also have to be all the time I always sound like a Debbie Downer. I'm like, well, let's wait and see about this, and I don't think this is gonna do that, and shut up about this, because in my mind I'm like, I love technology, but at the same time there's been half of the stuff lets you down. It's never real. It's never realized. So we spend so much time theorizing on stuff. I can't get myself excited about things when I read them. Because I always play myself down in them. And then when I try to talk about them on a show, I'm like, do I even care? I try to do a tech show on my own, and most of the tech stuff I care about is clean up the environment. Stuff for kids or dogs.
Yeah, well, no, that's popular.
Yeah. Like stuff that's actually useful and that matters. Like the things that are coming that are probably going to change the world. I'm not the guy that's like, oh man, they just created a new processor with the blah 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 blah. Because I'm like, that's not even real yet. Call me when it's real.
Well, and that's always the problem with anything. I know it from technology. You know it from technology. But it's any topic. If you're way into it, you can talk more knowledgeably about it because you're like, well, let me tell you why that processor is interesting. But you're also don't have the perspective. Like the closer you get to anything, the less perspective you have because you're so close to it.
Exactly. So I usually spend if I do Twit, for example, since I have such a large audience, I always get tweets and emails I don't know why you're on there. You're not a tech writer. You don't know anything about technology. And I usually do my same thing. I always come with kindness. I write them like, hey, just look up iqmz.com. It's been 8 different businesses. It's been open since 2002. I've had my own business in technology. I've done web design, da-da-da-da-da. I was like, I just don't read press releases and drink the Kool-Aid all the time, but I'm involved in technology. I do it as my, oh, really? And then they end up following me. And I'm like, you just told me you hated me because basically I just do common sense stuff because there's other people to do tech and give you specs. My thing is, does it work? Doesn't it work? Why do you care? Same thing with Pokemon.
And people go after you for not knowing the thing that they know, right? And so if they're like, let's say they're way into processors, and you say something about like, I don't really care about Intel's TikTok thing, or you get it wrong, right? You're like, you say the processor name wrong, then all of a sudden you blow all your credibility with that person because they got a litmus test. But what you did when you write them back is you're like, hey, just because I don't know the thing that you're into, here's a bunch of things I do know about that maybe you don't know about, and all of a sudden it becomes balanced.
I specifically directly to what you just said, that's what I said to the last guy. He said I pronounced something wrong, which I don't even remember saying, but I said, you know what, bro? A lot of guys make their career retyping up press releases. That's not me. And he was like, you know what? I'm sorry. And then he followed me. And I was like, yeah. I was like, anybody can read a press release. Like, that's all we're all doing when we're reporting. And maybe we go out, we get our hands on something early. But most of the time, we're taking that information, we're looking at it until we get our hands on it. And then when we get our hands on it, make a judgment. But everybody's got the same general information going around. So if you wanted that, like you said, when it's specific, you can get into it. When you're not, you won't. Like with Pokemon, people are like, oh, the kids are playing Pokemon. I'm like, huh? 22 to 37-year-olds are playing Pokemon right now because like this weekend I was driving and my buddy passed me, did a Yui. We got out, we're talking. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, I'm driving my son and my nephews around to play Pokemon this weekend because it was a Saturday. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He's like, yeah, because they've been wanting to play all week. But the ones that are under 12 didn't have a phone, so the 2 in there that were 9 don't have their own cell phone, so they have to have their dad with them, and they were borrowing their mom's phone to play it so they could all have their own phone. Secondly, you can't let your 9-year-old drive or walk across town by himself to go try and catch a Pokemon. Like, you need parents with them to go say, okay, I'm going to go dedicate 4 hours today to go drive to a park or to a lake and walk around with you so you're not by yourself. But adults, that's why you see people out at night at the park. 35-year-olds don't have anybody to answer. They could drive to wherever and go sit down and party it up and exchange and all this kind of stuff. I was like, but stop just saying it's just a kid's game and making older people sound like they're horrible people.
Because it is a kid's game, and I'm seeing plenty of kids playing it, like you say, but they're always with their parents.
Yeah.
I think the best scene was like the second night it was out, we were driving around trying to find stops. We'd pull over to the side, and Eileen would spin the thing. We'd get our Pokemon, and we hit this place over where UCLA has some housing over here, and it just says like UCLA West Side Housing, and that sign is a Pokestop, right? And there was like a dozen people camped out there. Like they had blankets out, there were kids playing, they were hanging out, and they were all just like milking the Pokestop, having a blast. I was like, okay, this is different.
Yeah.
Like you've got your 22, 27-year-olds, you got your families with their little kids, like people on bicycles just coming up, changing. Like there is something different about what is going on with this game, and maybe it won't last more than a couple months. I don't know, but it's interesting.
Well, out here, I know winter's coming, so
yeah, makes a big difference, right?
Out where you're at,
school?
See, school, again, they still need their parents, so I equate that to the parents have to get home from work and take them out anyway. Again, like you had to wait till Saturday, or maybe you had to wait till 6 o'clock. So even during the school year, you could probably still sneak out with your kids and get it done. But winter, I want to see how many people out here on the East Coast of life.
Warm Pokestops. That's going to be a big business for people.
Exactly. People throwing out lures. And you're right. People throwing out lures, started businesses. Oh, wow. If I had a little coffee shop, man, we'd be Pokestop heaven. Come in here and get your coffee.
Warm up and catch. There's a restaurant not too far from me here. If you sit at the right tables, there's about 4 tables where you can do this. You can catch 3 Pokestops at once from inside the restaurant.
So my uncle, we own UPS stores, and I was getting my mail the other day, and he was like, so tell me about this. He always asked me about technology, what to do. I was like, tell me about this Pokemon. I was like, well, technically we sell boxes and ship things, so there's nothing we could do to get people to buy this useful. I said, but what I would do that's probably illegal is I put like 20 or 30 Pokélures in the back because we have like all this open storage space, and people be like, man, there's like 18 Pokemon back there. I'm like, yo, for $2 you go back there and get that. I was like, we make a killing, boy. This is private property. You want this Pokemon or not?
Get it.
We make that lure money back ASAP. They walk back, they catch their Pokemon, and call it a day. You know.
Well, but, when I was checking my mail at the UPS store yesterday, and while I was waiting for him to get my packages, I pulled out Pokemon Go. And when he came back, he's like, "Did you catch the Eevee? It's in the alley back there. You could get it from the back of the store." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, good tip, thanks."
That's funny. It's an amazing thing for all the reasons that it's amazing, and it's also a depressing thing. I'm like, we can't even get people out to vote or care about why we got these wackadoo people running the presidency, and like we got wars and we can't get wars started. We need to protest. We need to strike. You know what? Catch them all. Never mind. Catch them all.
But it's the distance between, like, when you're playing Pokemon Go, I press a thing, I get a thing, right? It stimulates. It's like any game. You could say that about any game, like any Xbox game, any PS4 game. It's like, oh, well, you'll engage and spend hours on that, but you won't do anything to improve society. So the key is, like, how can you meet those two together to be like, hey, voting actually has a direct effect on you too. How do you show that? That's the trick.
Yeah, I guess I feel that way. That's a real common sense way to think about it. But this is like a phenomenon at the moment. This is a rare bird of a beast of a thing, because even when people play video, like, so I'm not playing Pokemon right now. I opened up the first day, I downloaded it. I played it the first day, just, you know, because, again, technology, you got to learn and see what it's about. I looked at Lee and I'm like, yo, do you want to play Pokemon? And there were 6 kids in the car. I explained it to them. I showed it to them. And they're like, we trade cards. We want cards. And I'm like, all right.
They're too old. They're stuck in their ways.
Yeah. They're 9-year-old, 8-year-olds, you know? So then, like, 4 days later, because everybody was talking about it, they said, oh, can we play Pokemon Go? I was like, that ship has sailed. You said you didn't want to. You're beat. I'll probably take her out this weekend or whatever.
Sure.
But it's just like, oh, they didn't care if we were talking about it. You know, like, this year was the year where she got into Pokemon. You know, again, kids were like making drug deals in school with this stuff. She came home one day, and I'm not with her mother, so I have her half the week, and she had a stack of Pokemon cards like this big. And I'm like, that's cool. Did your mom buy them for you? She's like, no, I traded them at school. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, well, what did you trade for them? And she's like, oh, my Shopkins that my mom bought me. Now, I don't know if you know what Shopkins are. Shopkins are tiny little plastic toys that represent household items: a fridge, a waffle, a TV.
Okay, so they're like homies.
Yes.
Used to be.
Yep.
For household items.
And if you have like the first set of those things, they cost $15 per pack. Now they're $95 a pack. Like, they're collector's items now. They're worth instant money because they make certain sections and they don't make them again. So I called her mom and I'm like, do you not ask your daughter why she's coming home with all these cars? She's like, oh, she said the kids were trading. I was like, you didn't ask her what she's trading? This is how kids get away with doing drugs and selling drugs in school, because parents don't ask questions. You don't ask how the kid came home with all this money or all this whatever they bought with the money. I'm like, you got to
stacks of Pokemon cards.
Yeah, you got to ask how she got them. And I'm like, she's trading the stuff that you bought her. So she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you might want to talk to your daughter.
You're essentially buying her Pokemon cards. You just don't know it.
Exactly. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, Pokemon cards are $1 a pack. We could have easily.
But the real question is, how many Poke cards did she get for the Shopkin? Was she making good deals?
I don't think she was making good deals, especially because when she first started, she was making little girl deals. Now, she's very much a tomboy, but her goal was to get the shinier, sparklier Pokemons, which are usually lowercase, lower powered up Pokemons. And I'm like, yo, we don't need Sparkly Puff. We need Jigglypuffs. Like, we need... And I explained to her, she's like, oh. And then she found out that she can get like the chrome-plated cards or the gold-plated cards, so she can get the better animal or beast all charged up, but it'll be a better card. So I flipped the script on her, but by that point we were buying cards and playing the game that way anyway. But, you know.
So what we need to do, going back to your earlier thought, because Australia has a law that requires people to vote. And because they have a law, they have people show up and cook sausages. and that is now the biggest thing that gets people interested into going out to vote, because they got to go to vote anyway, is which polling places have the best sausages, and where am I going to go to vote? So here in the U.S., we don't have the law, but what if we made Pokestops with extra rare characters at the polling places?
Yo. And in order to catch them, you have to cast your vote.
Right. They're in the voting booth. You have to go into the booth to be able to catch them.
We just saved a free world, Tom Merritt. We just saved a free world. Now, I don't know if you saw the clip with Hillary Clinton where she talked about Pokemon and she fully...
I don't think I saw it.
Okay, I'm going to edit it in this video, but I'll send it to you later. She fully embarrassed herself. Someone cut it together with movie clips, and she's like, I don't know how we get people to do the Pokemon and go to the polls. I don't know. And I'm just like, no, we don't know.
So now we do.
It was horrible. But, in a case, we just solved that whole Pokemon going to the polls thing, because that's a great idea. See, I'm an overweight snackerber, so when you said sausages, I'm thinking maybe we could have regional cookouts at polling places. Like,
I think that's not bad either.
Over in Wisconsin, they could do brats and whatever. In Chicago, they could do hot dogs. Over in Philly, we could have cheesesteaks. Like, I was instantly just thinking all kinds of just great food.
We'll have lots of kale out here.
Yeah. You're in a horrible place for snackables. Like,
no, you know what LA is great about, which San Francisco wasn't, is burgers. LA is got, not that San Francisco doesn't have some respectable burger places, but LA is all about the burgers.
Yeah, and in San Francisco, like, the burger places were kind of fancy burger places. You'd get the,
Barney's
Kobe.
Type of place,
yeah. I forget what it was. Daria Rose took me to some burger place, not burger place, but they only make this burger once a week, right? Now, I bit into this burger and I'm looking at her like, it's not that great. The guy cooks it, it's him and his wife, it's two people, and he comes over to me, he's like, I just saw your face, you just bit in that burger, you don't like that burger, this is Kobe beef, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I love the burger, dude, I'm just saying, like, it's plain, there's no ketchup, this place has no condiments. Like, it's one of those places, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's all about the flavor of the meat and the bun, which was great, but so he looks at me, he's like, you like mayonnaise? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right. He cracks an egg, and he whips me up fresh mayonnaise on the spot. And let me tell you, I haven't had mayonnaise like that, 5 years, and I don't know if it's because he did it for me or if he took the time to care, but that was the best burger I ever had in my life after he put that mayonnaise on it. I was like, I love you, man. You're the best person in San Francisco. I don't even care that this burger is $32. It's worth it.
That's fresh mayonnaise right there.
Oh, man. Oh, man, it was amazing.
On's Burgers in Oakland, I will give top marks to. That's just a good old-fashioned greasy burger. But yeah, I've got a dozen burger places that I love here.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I just had a burger for dinner before I called you. Grilled it up myself, and it was delicious. Had some little garlic in it, some onions in it. Yeah, it was good to go. So we're about to wrap up. See how time flies when you're having fun? I don't even think
definitely.
Other than the polls and the Pokemon and solving the whole electro, I don't even know.
We solved children's sports. We solved the free world.
Yeah. We did. We saw the economy and people's greed. We need to just Mr. Robot that and reset it.
Right. It's all good.
We go back to bartering. That'd be cool, but that's not really cool when you don't have
It's called Craigslist.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen those people that trade things to get a Lamborghini? Do you ever see that?
Yeah, the sort of red paperclip
Yeah,
thing.
I was like, is that even real? Is that even possible? I started out with a iPod, and now I've got a Lamborghini. And I'm like...
You have to be good at it. That's all I think.
It's got to be a job.
Yeah.
You got to be a full-time hustler to be like, I'm flipping this for that, flipping that for that. And at the end of the day...
Because what it's taking advantage of, there's always somebody who values things a little differently. So you're always looking for the person who values what you've got more than the person who gave it to you.
Yeah. And that's a chase. That's a hunt.
That is a chase. Even with the internet, that's a chase.
So plug yourself.
So I've got this red paperclip, Owen.
No, I'm not doing it. You're not. I'm done listening to you.
I've got a green paper.
No. See, I know how to age detect Tom Merritt works. He says stuff, it gets in your ear, you think it's legit. I'm not falling for it. Tell people where they can find you and stuff that you care about.
Oh, sure. The thing I'm most excited about these days is my books. I've got a book coming out from Inkshares in March called Pilot X about a time traveler who's trying to save the universe, much like Owen and I did on this show today. We didn't time travel, but in the book this guy does. It's called Pilot X. You can pre-order it on Amazon, or you can go to tommerrittbooks.com and check it out right now. The idea is this guy just wants to fly his ship, but he keeps getting pulled into these intrigues, and he starts to find out that he is the only one in a position to save the universe, but he might have to kill his entire race of people to do it.
That sounds like something I do, because I'm a cold-blooded mamma jamma. I'm not. Now I got to go read it just so I can back it up. How long did it take you to write the book?
I did that as a National Novel Writing Month book back 2 years ago, and then it spent about a year polishing it up.
How long was the story in your brain?
I don't know. How long did I think about the story? I thought about it for about a year.
Okay, so I was going to say, was that okay. I'm currently trying to do a children's book and a graphic novel. I've got the synopsis drawn out, and I've got the one story for the kids book written out. I'm just trying to find an artist to do it. So, and that's something that like has been in my brain for maybe like 4 or 5 years. And since it hasn't gone anywhere, I finally started talking about it to people. Like, do you think this is a good story? And then when people say,
just get it out there.
Yeah, like everybody's like, oh, that's a good story. Like when I tell the story, as it were. So I was like, now I'm going to try and do something with it. But that's great. Tom Merritt Books. Wait, what am I doing?
TomMerrittBooks.com.
Tom Merritt Books. It's just so simple and easy. I'm going to get the book. I'm going to read the book. And just to let you know, spoiler alert on me, I'm killing everybody to save myself. If it was a question. If I could save a couple people, I'd be selective. But otherwise, nobody lives. That's just for me. That's just for me.
That's Pilot O.
Yeah, Pilot O. The sequel coming out. It's a 2-page sequel. Tom might even throw it in for free. He can write it up tonight while he's eating his. He can write it up while he's eating his burger.
Pilot O showed up and said, "Let me show you how it's done."
Right? We snip. We cut it, and that's it. Nobody lives. I'm your boy with JJ Stone, aka O Doctor. This is DocTales. Woo! And we're out.